We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine on this day of the Russian invasion. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who's built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon. Okay, it's day 107, and here's what's going on in Ukraine. Again, the focal point still continues to be the situation in Severodonetsk. The fighting there is just, it's brutal. The Russia, again, is in control of much of the city. In the early days of the war, now let's go back to like day two of the conflict. Maybe it was day three. President Zelensky very famously, like the U.S. offered him a ride out of town, figuring that the country was going to fall very quickly. And he very famously said, I need ammunition, not a ride. It's more true today that he needs ammunition. And so here's what's going on. So they have Soviet era artillery systems, but they're running out of the Soviet era artillery shells. Now, they also have plenty of Western artillery shells, but they don't have the systems yet. And they need the systems and they need the training on the systems in order to be effective. So right now, Ukrainians are conserving ammunition. So according to some reports, like the New York Times is reporting, they're returning only one shell for every 10 shells fired by the Russians. And that's not a good place to be. So if they have to conserve it until they can get the weapons and get them onto the battlefield, that's very bad. They're desperately outgunned. A Ukrainian presidential aide told reporters that 100 to 200 Ukrainian soldiers were being killed each day. Now that's double the figure that Zelensky gave just a week or two earlier, and so this is bad. I mean, this is pretty much a bloodbath where they are. 100 to 200 killed. That's not including wounded, and so the wounded should be before the estimate was 50 to 100 killed and upwards of 500 wounded. So you can only imagine what the wounded casualties are each day. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense announced also by telegram today that Russia's economic resources will allow the occupying country to continue the war at its current pace for another year, and that's bad. So it's a matter of getting those systems there, so that, I mean, the sooner they can get the systems, the sooner they can bring the fight to the Russians, and the sooner we can conclude this one way or another, but hopefully the Ukrainians will have the ability to endure. Zelensky gave two speeches today. He picked up on this new theme about this ideological battle between the rule of law and the rule of brute force. And he talked about since the 2014, the Russians had violated 400 different international treaties. Now, this isn't just what happened since 2022, but since 2014, when they first invaded 8 years ago, and that limited scale. Okay, they violated the UN Charter, the UN Convention for the Suppression of Financing of Terrorism, the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, the corpus of conventions governing the laws and customs of war, the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance, the Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the Event of Armed Conflict, the UN Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. And then there are other conventions like European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights, the Fundamental Freedoms, the Statute of Statute of Council of Europe, and the Budapest Memorandum. And he parked on the Budapest Memorandum. If you don't know what that is, in about 1994, President Clinton and Boris Yeltsin, at the time from Russia, and the president of Ukraine signed a memorandum with the Brits. The Brits were also involved in this. Signed a memorandum that the Ukrainians would give up their nukes, and in exchange, Russia, the United States, and the UK would guarantee their sovereign borders. And Russia is violating it. The UK has been stalwart in helping defend, and the US also eventually came along. But wow, I mean, violation after violation after violation. And so the documents aren't worth the paper it's printed on. Now, he concluded this: democracy is always respect for words. International law is also respect for words. But they work and they are able to win in confrontations only when they can be backed up by actions. And that's exactly where we are. They have to back them up by actions. Okay, there was a second speech today, and Zelensky was talking to Oxford University students. He asked why Russia invaded, and he gave this answer: they have a phobia of freedom. Now, that might be a little bit hyperbolic, but he explained even if freedom is not in their country, but in a neighboring country, freedom's nearby. For Russia, it's dangerously close. It wants to destroy it, but it'll lose. And that's actually a pretty interesting analysis of what it is. I like Russia does not want a Western-leaning country right so close on its border. It's this like, what if you're a dictator in a country where there's peace and prosperity next door, you probably don't want that right up on your border, and that's what he's saying. Meanwhile, Serbian President Vucic was saying that he's not going to be joining the EU sanctions as much as Germany and others are trying to coax him into it. And he said, quote, as far as sanctions are concerned, we have different position. We remember sanctions against Serbia, and we do not think sanctions are efficient. And he's also trying to maintain that cozy relationship that he has with Putin. So that's really what's motivating it. Okay, that is it for today. Come back and I'll tell you what's happened tomorrow. Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.